The Cracked Pot. The Cracked Pot, a story of imperfection and purpose. Long ago, in a small peaceful village nestled between green hills and shining rivers, there lived a kind old water bearer. Every morning he walked down to the river with a wooden pole across his shoulders. At each end of the pole hung a pot, one on the left and one on the right. One pot was perfect, polished and smooth. It carried water without losing a single drop. The other pot, however, had a crack along its side. The water bearer had repaired it many times, but the crack remained. Every day, as he carried water from the river to his master's house, the cracked pot leaked, spilling half of its water along the path. For 2 years, this went on. Every day, the water bearer would fill both pots to the brim, and by the time he reached home, one pot would be full, while the other was only half. The perfect pot was proud of its usefulness, but the cracked pot felt ashamed and sad. The cracked pot's sadness. One morning, as the water bearer prepared for his walk, the cracked pot couldn't hold back its sorrow any longer. It spoke in a trembling voice. I'm so sorry, master. I'm ashamed of myself. Every day I fail you. Because of this crack in my side, you lost half the water I carry. I'm useless. The old man stopped, surprised by the pot's voice, and smiled gently. Useless, my dear pot? Why do you think that? The cracked pot sighed. Because I am broken. Look at the other pot. It delivers all its water perfectly. But I leak all the way to the house. You work hard, and I give you only half the result. The water bearer chuckled softly. Tomorrow, as we walk to the master's house, I want you to look carefully at the path we take. Don't think about your crack, just observe. The walk of discovery. The next morning, the water bearer filled both pots with water and placed them on his shoulders, as usual. They began the long walk uphill toward the master's home. The cracked pot noticed sunlight glistening on the droplets of water that escaped through its crack. As it looked down, it noticed something it had never seen before: flowers blooming along the path. Yellow marigolds, white jasmine, pink wildflowers, all dancing in the gentle morning breeze. By the time they reached the house, half of its water was gone again. The pot sighed sadly. See, I failed you once more. The perfect pot must be proud of itself. The old water bearer smiled again. Did you notice the flowers along your side of the path? Pot nodded. Yes, but what do they have to do with me? He set the pots down and said kindly, I always knew about your crack. That's why I planted flower seeds along your side of the path. And every day as we walked, you watered them. Because of you, those flowers bloom so beautifully. I picked them for my master's table, and they bring joy to his home. Without your crack, there would be no flowers, no color, and no beauty. The lesson of the cracked pot. The cracked pot was silent for a long time. For the first time in its life, it realized that what it thought was its flaw had actually been its gift. Its crack, the very thing it hated, had made the path alive with color and fragrance. It hadn't failed the water bearer, it had helped him create beauty. From that day onward, the cracked pot no longer felt ashamed. Every time water trickled out of its side, it smiled, knowing it was giving life to something wonderful. The perfect pot too began to see differently. It realized that being perfect wasn't the only way to be valuable. Sometimes imperfection creates miracles that perfection never can. The water bearer's wisdom. As time passed, the water bearer became old and weak. One day, while sitting under a tree, he looked at both his pots and said softly, Both of you served me well. You may be different, but you both have purpose. The world needs both perfection that carries strength and cracks that carry life. The cracked pot felt a warm glow inside. It had learned that true beauty is not in being flawless, but in being useful in your own way. And so, every morning it carried water with pride. spilling joy along the way, one drop at a time. Years later, seasons came and went. The flowers on the path grew wild and thick, forming a ribbon of colors through the dusty road. Villagers often stopped to admire them. Children played around them, collecting petals and making garlands. Travelers rested under the shade nearby, confronted by their beauty. No one knew that those flowers existed because of a little pot with a crack, a pot that once thought it was worthless. The cracked pot had quietly changed the world around it without even trying. The moral of the story: every person, just like every pot, has cracks, flaws, weaknesses, or mistakes. But those cracks can be the very channels through which light, love, and goodness flow. When we stop hiding our imperfections and start embracing them, we realize that our flaws make us unique, they make us human, they make us beautiful. The old water bearer was right. It's not about being perfect, it's about finding purpose in your imperfections. Final reflection. So, next time you feel broken, weak, or not good enough, remember the cracked pot. Even if you think you are leaking away, you might be watering something beautiful along the way, something only you were meant to create. Perfection pleases the eyes, but imperfection touches the heart. And sometimes the cracks in your life aren't signs of damage, they are the places where your light shines through.